Rampage is a 2018 American science fiction monster film that brings the classic arcade game of the same name to the big screen with a modern, action-packed twist. Directed by Brad Payton and produced by New Line Cinema, the movie stars Dwayne Johnson as primatologist Davis Okoye, alongside Naomi Harris, Malin Akerman, Jake Lacy, and Jeffrey Dean Morgan. The film is loosely inspired by the 1986 Midway arcade game, where giant monsters destroy cities, but it adds a contemporary genetic engineering angle and a strong emotional core centered on the bond between a man and his gorilla. The story begins in outer space, aboard the Athena 1 space station, which is owned by Energyne, a shadowy corporation specializing in gene manipulation. The station is destroyed when a laboratory rat, exposed to a powerful pathogen, mutates and goes on a rampage. The sole survivor, astronaut Carrie Atkins, manages to escape in a pod along with 3 canisters of the dangerous pathogen. However, the pod breaks apart upon re-entry into Earth's atmosphere, scattering the canisters across the United States. One canister lands in the Everglades, where an American crocodile named Lizzie ingests it. Another falls in a Wyoming forest, affecting a wolf named Ralph, and the third lands in the San Diego Zoo Safari Park, right in the enclosure of George, a rare leucistic western lowland gorilla. George is no ordinary gorilla. He was rescued by Davis Okoye from poachers in Africa and has been raised with great care and affection. Davis, a former Special Forces soldier and head of an anti-poaching unit, has taught George sign language, and the two share a deep, trusting relationship. George is intelligent, playful, and has a mischievous sense of humor, often signing jokes to Davis. But when the pathogen enters his system, George begins to grow at an alarming rate. His behavior becomes increasingly aggressive, and his physical strength multiplies exponentially. Davis is soon contacted by Dr. Kate Caldwell, a genetic engineer who previously worked for Energyne. She explains that the pathogen was designed to rewrite genetic codes on a massive scale, originally intended for medical breakthroughs using CRISPR technology. However, Energyne, under the ruthless leadership of CEO Claire Wyden, twisted the research into a biological weapon. Kate, who was falsely imprisoned after exposing the company's illegal activities, is desperate to stop the mayhem. Together, Davis and Kate race against time to find an antidote and prevent the mutated animals from destroying everything in their path. Meanwhile, Claire and her brother Brett, who is both dim-witted and cowardly, are determined to cover up their role in the disaster. They dispatch a mercenary team to capture Ralph, but the wolf, now gigantic and covered in razor-sharp quills, kills the entire team. Realizing they need a distraction, Claire devises a plan to lure all 3 monsters to Chicago using a powerful radio transmitter atop the Willis Tower. The pathogen has made the animals hypersensitive to a specific frequency, and when the signal is broadcast, George, Ralph, and Lizzie all converge on the city, causing unprecedented destruction. The second half of the film is a non-stop spectacle of urban devastation. The military is powerless against the colossal creatures, and Davis, Kate, and government agent Harvey Russell must infiltrate Energyne's headquarters to steal the antidote. Harvey, initially skeptical of Davis's emotional attachment to George, gradually becomes an ally as he witnesses the primatologist's courage and determination. The trio commandeers a Black Hawk helicopter and flies into the heart of the chaos. At the Willis Tower, they confront Claire, who reveals that the antidote does not revert the animals to their original size. It only neutralizes their heightened aggression. In a desperate move, Kate slips a vial of the antidote into Claire's handbag, and moments later, George swallows Claire whole, along with the vial. The antidote takes effect, restoring George's gentle personality. However, the threat is not over, as Ralph and Lizzie continue their rampage. The climactic battle takes place amidst the collapsing skyscrapers of Chicago. Davis uses his knowledge of animal behavior to turn Ralph and Lizzie against each other. Lizzie, the crocodile, decapitates Ralph with her powerful jaws, but George must then face Lizzie alone. In a brutal, visceral fight, George manages to impale Lizzie's eye with a piece of rebar, killing her. With the monsters neutralized, the military aborts its planned Moab airstrike, and Davis, alongside Kate and Harvey, helps rescue trapped civilians. The film's production was a massive undertaking. Principal photography began in April 2017, with location shoots in Chicago and Atlanta. The visual effects, primarily handled by Weta Digital, were a technical marvel. The team created highly detailed digital models of the Chicago Loop, studying building materials and architecture to ensure realistic destruction. They referenced historical collapses and earthquakes to make the devastation feel authentic. For George, Weta leveraged its extensive experience with ape animation from the Planet of the Apes series, using motion capture actor Jason Liles to bring the characters' emotions and physicality to life. The wolf and crocodile, however, were fully animated without motion capture, allowing the artists more creative freedom to give them fantastical features like spines and wings. The score, composed by Andrew Lockington, underscores the film's blend of emotional beats and explosive action, while Kid Cudi contributed an end credits track titled The Rage. Marketing included tie-in video games, a VR experience, and extensive promotional campaigns featuring Johnson, who is known for his charismatic screen presence and physical prowess. Upon its release on April 13, 2018, Rampage received mixed reviews from critics who praised Johnson's performance and the visual effects but criticized the thin plot and over-the-top action. Nevertheless, the film was a commercial success, grossing over $428 million worldwide against a production budget of $120 to $140 million. It performed particularly well internationally, with strong showings in China and other key markets. The home media release, including 4K UHD, Blu-ray, and DVD, added nearly $29 million in additional revenue. In the broader context of monster cinema, Rampage stands as a throwback to classic creature features, updated with state-of-the-art effects and a charismatic lead. It also marked the end of director Brad Peyton and Dwayne Johnson's informal trilogy, following Journey to The Mysterious Island in San Andreas. While it lacks the emotional depth or social commentary of some of its peers, it delivers exactly what its title promises: pure, unapologetic rampaging on a grand scale. The film's legacy lies in its successful translation of a simple arcade premise into a global blockbuster, proving that with enough spectacle and star power, even the most straightforward concepts can find an audience. For fans of the game, the movie includes numerous Easter eggs, such as a vintage Rampage arcade cabinet in Energine's office, and a scene where George eats a person pulled from a building, just like in the game. Claire's red dress and eventual fate also mirror the game's iconic damsel in distress imagery, subverted in a darkly humorous way. In summary, Rampage is a high-octane, visually stunning creature feature that celebrates its video game origins while offering a crowd-pleasing mix of humor, heart, and mayhem. It may not be a critical darling, but it remains a memorable entry in the monster movie genre and a testament to Dwayne Johnson's enduring appeal as an action hero. The film's success also highlighted the potential of video game adaptations, paving the way for more ambitious projects that balance nostalgia with modern filmmaking techniques. The journey of Rampage from a simple 1986 arcade cabinet to a $140 million Hollywood blockbuster is a story of adaptation, persistence, and creative reinvention. The original game, developed by Bally Midway, featured 3 humans, George, Lizzie, and Ralph, who are transformed into giant monsters by a chemical spill. Players controlled one of these creatures and destroyed buildings, ate people, and fought military forces across multiple cities. The game was notable for its destructive gameplay, pixelated graphics, and the memorable sight of a giant gorilla, wolf, or lizard toppling skyscrapers. When Warner Brothers acquired Midway Games' intellectual property in 2009 for $33 million, the studio gained access to a library of classic titles, including Rampage. 4 years, the project languished in development hell. Various screenwriters pitched different takes, some of which stayed faithful to the game's premise of mutated humans. Others proposed more serious, grim interpretations. It was not until 2015, when Dwayne Johnson signed on to star, that the film gained serious momentum. Johnson, who grew up playing the game in pool halls and later on the Nintendo Entertainment System, had a personal affection for the property. His involvement brought instant star power and a guaranteed international audience. Director Brad Peyton, who had previously worked with Johnson on Journey to The Mysterious Island in San Andreas, was brought on board in July 2015. The duo had developed a strong working relationship, with Peyton understanding how to balance Johnson's larger-than-life persona with grounded emotional stakes. Payton described the film as a love letter to the monster movies I grew up watching, citing Jaws, Jurassic Park, and King Kong as primary influences. The goal was not to make a campy video game movie, but to treat the material with sincerity, focusing on the relationship between Davis and George as the emotional anchor. The script went through multiple drafts. Ryan Engle wrote the initial treatment, which established the genetic engineering angle and the animal protection theme. Later, Carlton Cuse, Ryan J. Condal, and Adam Steichel polished the dialogue, added humor, and streamlined the plot. One of the key decisions was to make the monsters animals rather than mutated humans, as in the game. This change allowed for more sympathetic creatures. George, in particular, is a victim of circumstance, not a villain. The producers also wanted to avoid the humans turning into monsters trope, which had been overused in other films. Another crucial creative choice was setting the climax in Chicago. The Willis Tower, formerly the Sears Tower, serves as both a visual icon and a narrative device, with its antenna functioning as the transmitter that lures the monsters. Chicago's architecture, with its dense skyscrapers and wide streets, provided the perfect backdrop for large-scale destruction. The city also offered practical filming locations and generous tax incentives, making it an attractive choice for production. Part 2. Character Studies. Davis Okoye, the reluctant hero. Dwayne Johnson's character, Davis Okoye, is a former U.S. Army Special Forces soldier who now works as a primatologist and head of an anti-poaching unit at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park. His military background is not just backstory. It informs his tactical thinking, physical capabilities, and emotional resilience. Johnson, known for his action hero roles, brings a warmth and vulnerability to Davis that elevates the character beyond a typical muscle-bound protagonist. Davis's motivation is deeply personal. He rescued George as a baby after poachers killed his mother, and the two have been inseparable ever since. Davis communicates with George using sign language, a skill he learned during his time in Africa. Their bond is the emotional core of the film. When George mutates, Davis is not just fighting to save the city, but to save his friend. This relationship mirrors classic stories like King Kong and Mighty Joe Young, but with a modern, conservationist twist. Davis represents the ideal of human-animal coexistence, and his struggle to protect George from both the military and Energyne underscores the film's anti-corporate, pro-environmental themes. George, the leucistic gorilla. George is not your average gorilla. Leucism, a condition similar to albinism but with partial pigmentation, gives him a striking white-gray coat, making him visually unique and instantly recognizable. The character is brought to life through motion capture performance by Jason Lyles, with additional animation by Weighted Digital. George is intelligent, empathetic, and has a mischievous sense of humor. He signs jokes to Davis, imitates human behavior, and even displays a fondness for playing pranks. After exposure to the pathogen, George's transformation is both physical and psychological. He grows to enormous size, his muscle mass increases exponentially, and his aggression spikes. However, unlike typical movie monsters, George retains a flicker of his former self. Davis can still reach him, even in his most rage-filled moments, which is crucial to the plot. This duality, gentle friend and unstoppable beast, makes George a tragic figure, a victim of corporate greed rather than a mindless destroyer. Dr. Kate Caldwell, the scientist with a conscience. Naomi Harris plays Kate Caldwell, a genetic engineer who previously worked for Energyne. Her character serves as the exposition vehicle, explaining the science behind the pathogen and the antidote. But she is more than a walking encyclopedia. Kate has a personal stake in the story. Her terminally ill brother died while she was falsely imprisoned, and she carries immense guilt. Her arc is one of redemption, as she uses her expertise to help Davis stop the monsters and expose Energyne's crimes. Harris brings a grounded, earnest quality to Kate, balancing Johnson's bravado with quiet determination. Her chemistry with Johnson is believable, and their partnership feels organic rather than forced. Kate's moral compass, she wants to use science for healing, not harm, provides a clear contrast to Claire Wyden's ruthless ambition. Claire and Brett Wyden, the corporate villains. Malin Akerman plays Claire Wyden, the CEO of Energyne, with a cold, calculating demeanor. She is the embodiment of corporate malfeasance, willing to sacrifice thousands of lives to cover up her company's illegal experiments. Claire's motivation is purely selfish, She wants to avoid scandal, protect her stock price, and continue her research regardless of the cost. Her brother Brett, played by Jake Lacy, is a bumbling, cowardly sycophant who provides comic relief but is equally complicit in the scheme. The sibling dynamic, Claire's icy competence contrasted with Brett's neurotic incompetence, adds a layer of dark humor to the villainous duo. Harvey Russell, the government man. Jeffrey Dean Morgan plays Harvey Russell, an agent from a vague, other government agency. He initially appears as an antagonist, capturing George and ordering airstrikes, but he eventually becomes an ally. Harvey is pragmatic, cynical, and weary of bureaucracy, but he respects Davis's courage and ultimately helps him save the city. Morgan's performance is charismatic and wry, reminiscent of his roles in The Walking Dead and Watchmen. Harvey's arc from obstructionist to helper mirrors the film's broader theme of unlikely alliances. Part 3. The Science of the Pathogen. The fictional pathogen at the heart of Rampage is a gene-editing compound inspired by real-world CRISPR technology. CRISPR, clustered regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats, allows scientists to edit DNA with unprecedented precision, opening the door to curing genetic diseases, improving crops, and even creating designer organisms. However, the technology also carries ethical risks, including the potential for biological warfare or unintended ecological consequences. In the film, Energine's pathogen is a gene-manipulating agent that rewrites the DNA of any organism it infects, causing rapid growth, increased muscle density, heightened aggression, and sensitivity to specific radio frequencies. The pathogen is described as a species-jumping agent, meaning it can affect multiple types of animals, from rats to gorillas to crocodiles. This is scientifically implausible, as real-world gene-editing tools are highly species-specific. But the film takes creative license for the sake of spectacle. The pathogen's effects are portrayed with a mix of biological realism and Hollywood exaggeration. George, Ralph, and Lizzie grow to sizes that defy the square-cube law, which states that as an animal grows, its mass increases faster than its strength. In reality, a gorilla the size of a skyscraper would collapse under its own weight. The film ignores this, instead embracing the rule of cool to deliver epic monster battles. The antidote, which Kate and Davis steal, is designed to neutralize the aggression-inducing component of the pathogen, but not reverse the growth. This is a clever narrative choice, as it allows the monsters to remain giant while regaining their original personalities. It also sets up the possibility of sequels, where George could potentially continue to exist as a giant, peaceful guardian. Part 4. Production and Visual Effects. The production of Rampage was a massive logistical undertaking, involving multiple locations, extensive practical effects, and state-of-the-art digital animation. Principal photography began on April 17, 2017, in Chicago, with additional shooting in Atlanta, Georgia. The Chicago shoot focused on downtown exteriors, particularly the Willis Tower and Federal Plaza. The city was chosen for its iconic skyline and its ability to stand in for a generic American metropolis. The visual effects were led by Weta Digital, the renowned New Zealand studio famous for its work on The Lord of the Rings, Avatar, and the Planet of the Apes reboots. Effects supervisor Eric Winquist and his team spent months in Chicago, photographing buildings, scanning textures, and studying architectural details to create hyper-realistic digital models of the city. They took over 15,000 reference photographs and used 3D scanners to capture the exact dimensions and materials of the loop skyscrapers. For the destruction sequences, the artists studied the collapse of the World Trade Center towers in 2001 and the 2016 Kaikoura earthquake in New Zealand. They analyzed how steel frames buckle, glass shatters, and concrete crumbles under extreme force. The goal was to make the destruction feel visceral and grounded, even if the monsters themselves were fantastical. Every building collapse, every falling chunk of debris, and every cloud of dust was simulated using advanced physics engines, ensuring that the mayhem looked both chaotic and believable. Creating George was a particular challenge. Because the audience needs to empathize with him, his facial expressions and body language had to convey a wide range of emotions, from playfulness to rage to sorrow. Weta drew on its extensive experience from the Planet of the Apes films, where motion capture performances by actors like Andy Serkis had set a new standard for digital apes. Jason Liles, a veteran motion capture performer, wore a full suit covered in reflective markers, allowing the cameras to capture his movements with precision. Terry Notary, a renowned movement coach who worked on Avengers, Infinity War, also contributed to George's physicality, helping Lyles craft the gorilla's distinctive gait, posture, and gestures. Ralph and Lizzie, however, did not have motion capture actors. The wolf and crocodile were entirely computer-generated, which gave the animators more creative freedom. Ralph was designed with porcupine-like spines and vestigial wings, suggesting that the pathogen had triggered dormant genetic traits. Lizzie was made even more massive, with armored scales and a crushing bite force. The lack of motion capture for these characters meant that their movements were purely keyframe animated, which allowed for more exaggerated, monstrous behavior. In addition to Weta, other visual effects companies contributed to the film. Hydraulx, Scanline VFX, and UPP handled specific sequences, such as the space station destruction, the plane crash, and the helicopter chase. The collaboration between these studios ensured that the film maintained a consistent visual quality throughout its 107-minute runtime. Part 5. Music and Sound Design. Andrew Lockington composed the film's orchestral score, marking his fourth collaboration with director Brad Peyton. Lockington's music is characterized by sweeping strings, pounding percussion, and heroic brass themes. He sought to underscore the emotional journey of Davis and George, while also delivering the adrenaline-fueled energy required for the action sequences. The main theme is memorable and anthemic, evoking the grandeur of classic monster movies. The sound design was equally crucial. The roars of George, Ralph, and Lizzie were created by layering real animal sounds with digital manipulation. George's vocalizations incorporate recordings of gorillas, bears, and lions, blended with low-frequency rumbles that simulate his immense size. Ralph's howls are reminiscent of wolves, but with a metallic, echoing quality that suggests his mutated state. Lizzie's growls and hisses combine crocodilian bellows with the grinding of metal, emphasizing her role as a relentless predator. The film also features a licensed track by Kid Cudi titled The Rage, which plays during the end credits. The song's pulsating beat and aggressive lyrics capture the film's chaotic energy, providing a contemporary counterpoint to Lockington's orchestral score. The soundtrack was released digitally on April 13, 2018, by Water Tower Music and includes both Lockington's compositions and Cudi's track. Part 6. Marketing and Promotion. Warner Brothers launched an extensive marketing campaign to build anticipation for Rampage. The trailers emphasized Dwayne Johnson's star power, the impressive visual effects, and the destruction of Chicago. They also highlighted the emotional bond between Davis and George, appealing to audiences who might not be interested in mindless mayhem. As part of the promotional strategy, 3 tie-in video games were released. Rampage. City Smash is a browser game where players control one of the monsters and destroy buildings. Another arcade beat-em-up game was made available at Dave and Buster's locations, offering a redemption-style experience. Additionally, a free virtual reality game called Project Rampage VR allowed players to experience the sensation of being a giant monster, further immersing them in the film's world. Johnson himself was a tireless promoter, appearing on talk shows, social media, and press junkets. He shared behind-the-scenes footage, photos with the cast, and anecdotes about his childhood love of the arcade game. His genuine enthusiasm was contagious, helping to generate positive buzz even among skeptics. Part 7. Release and Box Office Performance. Rampage was initially scheduled for an April 20th, 2018 release, but Warner Brothers moved it up to April 13th to avoid competition with Avengers: Infinity War, which had shifted to April 27th. The move gave Rampage a 2-week window to dominate the box office before the Marvel juggernaut arrived. The film opened in 3,950 theaters across North America and grossed $35.7 million in its first weekend, exceeding projections of $3,540 million. It finished in first place, ahead of A Quiet Place and Truth or Dare. The audience was diverse, reflecting Johnson's broad appeal: 43% Caucasian, 21% Hispanic, 19% African American, and 14% Asian. The film earned $11.5 million on its opening day, including $2.4 million from Thursday night previews. In its second weekend, Rampage dropped 41% to $21 million, finishing second behind A Quiet Place, which continued to perform strongly. The third weekend saw a steep 64% decline to $7.1 million as Avengers: Infinity War consumed the market. Despite the drop, the film managed to hold on in subsequent weeks, grossing $4.6 million in its fourth weekend and $3.3 million in its fifth. Internationally, Rampage was a major success. It opened in China on the same weekend as the US and earned $55 million, the second-best debut for a Warner Brothers film in the country at that time. The film performed well in other territories, including the United Kingdom, Mexico, Russia, and Brazil. The worldwide total reached $428 million, surpassing the $120,140 million production budget by a significant margin. When marketing and distribution costs are factored in, the film was considered a moderate financial success, with Deadline Hollywood estimating that it would break even 2 years after release through ancillary revenues such as home media and television rights. Part 8. Home Media and Legacy. Rampage was released on digital HD on June 26, 2018, followed by 4K UHD, Blu-ray 3D, Blu-ray, and DVD on July 17, 2018. The home media sales added approximately $28.7 million to the film's revenue stream, according to the numbers. The home release included special features such as deleted scenes, a gag reel, and behind-the-scenes documentaries on the visual effects and the cast's training. The film's legacy is mixed. On one hand, it is a successful video game adaptation, one of the few to achieve both critical and commercial viability. On the other hand, it is often criticized for its formulaic plot and lack of originality. However, it stands as a testament to Dwayne Johnson's bankability and the enduring appeal of giant monster movies. It also helps solidify the trend of adapting retro video games into big-budget films, paving the way for projects like Sonic the Hedgehog, Detective Pikachu, and later the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Part 9. Critical Reception and Thematic Analysis. Critics were divided on Rampage. The film holds a 52% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, based on over 200 reviews, with an average score of May 4th, 10. The consensus reads, Rampage has size, spectacle, and Dwayne Johnson, but its video game roots show in a thin story that never quite achieves the blockbuster mayhem it shoots for. On Metacritic, the film has a score of 45 out of 100, indicating mixed or average reviews. Positive reviews praise Johnson's charisma, the visual effects, and the film's self-awareness. Many critics appreciated that the movie did not take itself too seriously, embracing its B-movie origins while delivering polished, high-end production values. The chemistry between Johnson and Harris was also highlighted as a strong point. Negative reviews pointed to the predictable plot, one-dimensional villains, and over-reliance on CGI. Some critics felt that the film wasted its talented supporting cast, particularly Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Malin Akerman. Others compared it unfavorably to Pacific Rim or Godzilla, arguing that Rampage lacked the visual poetry or thematic depth of those films. Thematically, Rampage explores several ideas, albeit superficially. The most prominent theme is environmentalism and animal conservation. Davis's work as an anti-poaching activist and his bond with George underscore the importance of protecting wildlife. Energine's disregard for nature in pursuit of profit serves as a cautionary tale about corporate greed. The film also touches on the ethics of genetic engineering, a timely topic in the wake of real-world CRISPR breakthroughs. However, these themes are largely overshadowed by the action and spectacle. Another subtext is the idea of found family. Davis, Kate, and Harvey form an unlikely team, bonded by their shared goal of stopping the monsters. George, too, is part of this surrogate family, and his eventual return to his gentle nature reinforces the film's message about redemption and forgiveness. Part 10. Comparisons to the video game. Fans of the arcade game will find numerous Easter eggs and references in the film. The most obvious is the presence of a vintage Rampage arcade cabinet in Energine's office, which Claire briefly plays. George eats a person he pulls out of a building, directly mimicking the game's mechanics. Claire's red dress and her fate, being swallowed whole, are a nod to the game's opening screen, which features a woman in a red dress being eaten by a monster. However, the film deviates significantly from the game's lore. In the original, George, Lizzie, and Ralph are humans transformed by a chemical spill. In the film, they are animals mutated by a gene-editing pathogen. The game features a simple, repetitive gameplay loop of destroying buildings and fighting the military, while the film adds a complex plot with multiple characters and ethical dilemmas. The film also introduces an antidote, which does not exist in the game. Despite these changes, the film captures the spirit of the game: chaotic, destructive, and larger than life. The sense of scale and the joy of watching skyscrapers crumble are faithfully translated from the arcade cabinet to the IMAX screen. For many viewers, that was enough. Part 11, The Future of the Franchise. Rampage was intended to be the start of a potential franchise. In interviews, director Brad Payton and producer Beau Flynn expressed interest in sequels, hinting at George's continued existence as a giant, benevolent creature. There was also talk of introducing other monsters from the game, such as the giant lizard or the giant wolf, in future installments. However, as of 2026, no sequel has been officially announced. The film's moderate box office and mixed reception may have cooled Warner Bros.' enthusiasm, but the studio has not ruled out the possibility. Dwayne Johnson, meanwhile, has moved on to other blockbuster franchises, including Jumanji, Black Adam, and Red Notice. His busy schedule makes it difficult to commit to a Rampage sequel, but he has expressed affection for the character in the film. If a sequel were to happen, it would likely require a new director and a fresh creative angle. Part 12, Conclusion. Rampage is a quintessential summer blockbuster, loud, fast, and undeniably entertaining. It does not aspire to high art, nor does it pretend to be more than a spectacle of monster mayhem. Yet, within its limited ambitions, it succeeds admirably. Dwayne Johnson delivers a likable performance, the visual effects are top-notch, and the film's self-aware humor prevents it from becoming tedious. The film opens with a tense sequence aboard the Athena-1 space station. The station, a sleek, futuristic laboratory orbiting Earth, is owned by Energyne. We are introduced to Carrie Atkins, a scientist and astronaut who is monitoring a series of experiments involving laboratory rats. One of the rats has been exposed to the pathogen, and it begins to grow uncontrollably. The rat breaks out of its enclosure, kills several scientists, and causes catastrophic damage to the station systems. Atkins, the sole survivor, manages to retrieve 3 canisters of the pathogen and escapes in an emergency pod. However, the pod disintegrates upon re-entry, scattering the canisters across the American landscape. This opening establishes the stakes, introduces the MacGuffin, the pathogen, and sets the tone for the ensuing chaos. The scene then shifts to the San Diego Zoo Safari Park, where we meet Davis Okoye. He is leading a tour group, explaining the importance of conservation and the work of his anti-poaching unit. He signs to George, who is in a large, naturalistic enclosure. George signs back, joking about Davis's appearance. Their interaction is warm and humorous, establishing their unique bond. Davis is then called away to deal with a minor animal incident, showcasing his competence and dedication. Later that night, the 3rd canister crash lands in George's enclosure. George, curious, approaches the canister and is exposed to the pathogen. The next morning, Davis notices that George is larger and more agitated. He attempts to calm him, but George's behavior becomes increasingly erratic. The zoo security team tries to sedate him, but George breaks free and goes on a rampage through the park. Davis uses his knowledge of animal behavior to calm George, but the gorilla is eventually captured by a government team led by Harvey Russell. Davis is devastated, but he knows that George is a danger to himself and others. Meanwhile, in Florida, the Everglades crocodile Lizzie has also been exposed to the pathogen. She grows to immense size and begins attacking boats and wildlife. In Wyoming, the wolf Ralph undergoes a similar transformation, developing spines and wings. Claire Wyden, watching from her corporate headquarters, realizes that her company's secret is about to be exposed. She dispatches a mercenary team to capture Ralph, but the team is brutally killed. Claire then devises a plan to lure all 3 monsters to Chicago, using the Willis Tower's antenna as a transmitter. The middle section of the film follows Davis and Kate as they team up to stop the monsters. Kate explains the science behind the pathogen and reveals her history with Energyne. She was a brilliant genetic engineer who believed in using CRISPR for medical good. However, when she discovered that Claire was developing the pathogen as a biological weapon, she tried to blow the whistle. Claire had her arrested on false charges, and during her imprisonment, Kate's terminally ill brother died. Kate carries immense guilt, believing that she could have saved him if she had not been incarcerated. This backstory adds depth to her character and gives her a personal stake in stopping Claire. Harvey Russell, initially skeptical of Davis and Kate, becomes an uneasy ally. He is a pragmatist, focused on containing the threat, but he comes to respect Davis's courage and Kate's expertise. The trio steals a Black Hawk helicopter and flies to Chicago, arriving just as the monsters begin their assault on the city. The climactic sequence is a masterpiece of visual effects. George, Ralph, and Lizzie tear through downtown Chicago, destroying skyscrapers, bridges, and streets. The military is powerless. Tanks and fighter jets are swatted aside like toys. Davis and Kate infiltrate Energine's headquarters inside the Willis Tower. They plan to steal the antidote, but Claire catches them. She reveals that the antidote only neutralizes aggression, not the growth. She then orders Davis to distract George while she escapes with Kate. Kate, however, has a plan. She slips a vial of the antidote into Claire's handbag. When George climbs to the top of the tower, Claire tries to use him as a shield. In a moment of darkly comedic justice, George swallows Claire whole, along with a handbag containing the antidote. The antidote takes effect, and George's aggression subsides. He recognizes Davis and signs an apology. The emotional reunion is brief, as Ralph and Lizzie continue their rampage. Davis decides to stay and help George defeat the other monsters. He uses his knowledge of animal psychology to turn Ralph and Lizzie against each other. Ralph attacks Lizzie, but Lizzie is too powerful and decapitates Ralph with a single bite. George then faces Lizzie in a brutal fight. The crocodile is larger and more armored, but George is more agile and intelligent. He uses a broken piece of rebar to stab Lizzie in the eye, killing her. The threat is neutralized, and the military aborts its airstrike. Davis, Kate, and Harvey work together to rescue trapped civilians, and the film ends with a hopeful note. George, though still giant, is once again the gentle soul Davis raised. Part 14, Character Arcs and Emotional Journeys. Davis Okoye's arc is one of protection and sacrifice. He begins as a dedicated primatologist who has built a safe, controlled life for himself and George. When George mutates, Davis is forced to confront the limits of his control. He cannot simply calm George with a sign or a treat. He must fight to save him from external threats, including the military and Energine. By the end, Davis has proven that his bond with George transcends size and species. He is willing to risk his life to save his friend, and he succeeds not through brute force but through empathy and understanding. Kate Caldwell's arc is one of redemption and finding purpose. She begins the film as a disgraced scientist, haunted by her brother's death and her own perceived failures. She blames herself for not being able to save him, and she is driven by a desire to atone. By helping Davis, she finds a new purpose, using her scientific knowledge to do good, not just to expose evil. Her partnership with Davis restores her confidence and gives her hope for the future. Harvey Russell's arc is subtler but significant. He starts as a faceless government agent, following orders without question. He sees George as a threat to be neutralized, not a creature to be saved. But as he witnesses Davis's dedication and Kate's intelligence, he begins to question his own assumptions. He chooses to help them, even if it means going against his superiors. By the end, he has become a genuine ally, willing to bend the rules for the greater good. George's arc is the most tragic and yet the most hopeful. He is a victim of circumstance, transformed into a monster against his will. He loses his gentle nature and becomes a raging beast. But even in his most violent moments, he retains a flicker of his former self. The antidote restores his personality, but he remains giant. This is both a curse and a blessing. He will never be a normal gorilla again, but he can still be Davis's friend. His arc is about identity and the possibility of redemption, even after causing immense destruction. Claire and Brett Whiten have simpler arcs. Claire is a classic villain, motivated by greed and pride. She refuses to accept responsibility for her actions and tries to cover up her crimes at any cost. Her comeuppance, being swallowed by George, is poetic and satisfying. Brett is a cowardly accomplice, and his death by falling debris is darkly ironic. Neither character is particularly nuanced, but they serve their purpose as obstacles for the heroes. Part 15. Directorial style and cinematography. Brad Peyton's directing style is characterized by a focus on spectacle and emotion. He knows how to frame large-scale action sequences, using wide shots to convey the scale of the destruction and close UPS to capture the characters' reactions. The camera moves dynamically, often soaring through the air to simulate a bird's-eye view of the chaos. Peyton also uses slow motion sparingly, emphasizing key moments like George's climactic fight with Lizzie. The cinematography, handled by Jaron Presant, complements Peyton's vision. Presant uses natural lighting for the daytime scenes in San Diego and Chicago, giving the film a realistic, grounded feel. The night scenes are moodier, with neon lights and explosions providing contrast. The color palette shifts throughout the film: warm, earthy tones in the zoo, cold, sterile blues in Energine's headquarters, and fiery oranges and reds during the destruction sequences. This visual variety keeps the audience engaged and underscores the shifting moods of the story. Peyton also pays attention to the smaller moments. The bond between Davis and George is conveyed through closed UPS and subtle gestures. George's sign language is captured clearly, ensuring that the audience understands his emotions. The humor is integrated naturally, often arising from George's mischievous personality or Harvey's dry wit. These moments provide relief from the intense action, allowing the audience to breathe before the next set piece. Part 16. The role of humor in the film. Rampage balances its destruction with a consistent streak of humor, much of it derived from George's interactions with Davis. George signs jokes about Davis's height, his haircut, and his love life. These moments humanize George and make him endearing, even after he mutates. The humor also extends to the human characters. Harvey's sarcastic comments and Brett's bumbling incompetence provide comic relief in otherwise tense situations. The humor is not overly broad or slapstick. It is character-driven and grounded. For example, when Davis first meets Kate, he is skeptical of her scientific jargon, and she responds with a wry smile. Their banter is light and natural, reflecting the growing trust between them. Even Claire has her moments of dark humor, as when she casually dismisses the loss of her mercenary team as an acceptable risk. The film's self-awareness is another source of humor. Characters occasionally acknowledge the absurdity of a situation, such as when Harvey says, "I've seen a lot of strange things, but a giant gorilla in Chicago is a new one." These winks to the audience prevent the film from taking itself too seriously, ensuring that it remains an entertaining romp rather than a grim disaster epic. Part 17. The film's place in the monster movie genre. Rampage belongs to a long tradition of monster movies that dates back to King Kong, 1933, and Godzilla, 1954. These films often use giant creatures as metaphors for societal fears, nuclear annihilation, environmental destruction, or unchecked scientific progress. Rampage continues this tradition, using the mutated animals to critique corporate greed and the dangers of genetic engineering. However, unlike many classic monster movies, Rampage does not portray its creatures as purely malevolent. George is a sympathetic figure, and even Ralph and Lizzie are victims of the pathogen. The film's climax is not about defeating the monsters, but about saving them. This reflects a modern, conservationist sensibility, where animals are seen as deserving of protection rather than extermination. The film also draws on the kaiju subgenre, popularized by Japanese films like Godzilla and Gamera. Kaiju movies typically feature giant monsters battling each other or humanity with extensive destruction sequences. Rampage adopts this formula, culminating in the George vs. Lizzie fight that rivals any kaiju showdown. However, the film's lighter tone and humor distinguish it from the more serious entries in the genre, such as Shin Godzilla or the legendary MonsterVerse films. Part 18. The effectiveness of the villains. Claire Wyden is a serviceable villain, but she lacks the complexity of great antagonists like Hans Gruber or the Joker. Her motivation is purely selfish. She wants to protect her company and her reputation. She shows no remorse for the deaths she causes, and she is willing to sacrifice countless civilians to cover up her crimes. This makes her easy to hate, but it also makes her predictable. Her comeuppance, being eaten by George, is satisfying but not particularly surprising. Brett Wyden is a different kind of villain. He is not evil, but he is weak and cowardly. He follows his sister's orders out of fear and a desire for approval. His death, crushed by falling debris, is almost anticlimactic. but it serves as a reminder that even complicit bystanders can suffer the consequences of their inaction. Harvey Russell, while initially presented as an antagonist, is not a villain. He is a professional doing his job, and he ultimately aligns with the heroes. This nuanced portrayal adds depth to the film, showing that not all authority figures are corrupt or incompetent. Part 19. The film's use of Chicago as a character. Chicago is more than a setting in Rampage. It is almost a character in its own right. The city's architecture, from the Willis Tower to the Wrigley Building, is meticulously rendered and then systematically destroyed. The film takes advantage of Chicago's iconic landmarks, using them as backdrops for the monster battles. The Willis Tower, in particular, serves as both a narrative device, the transmitter, and a visual centerpiece. The film also captures the spirit of Chicago with its bustling streets, diverse neighborhoods, and vibrant energy. The destruction scenes are juxtaposed with human moments, civilians fleeing, police officers trying to maintain order, and rescuers pulling survivors from the rubble. These scenes ground the fantasy in a recognizable reality, making the stakes feel more immediate. Chicago's participation in the production was also significant. The city offered tax incentives and logistical support, making it an attractive choice for the filmmakers. The local cast and crew brought a sense of authenticity to the production, and the film's release was celebrated with local events and screenings. Part 20. The film's soundtrack and audio design. Andrew Lockington's score is a crucial component of the film's emotional impact. He uses a full orchestra, with brass and strings carrying the main themes. The music swells during heroic moments, such as when Davis decides to stay and fight, and becomes more somber during scenes of loss or reflection. Lockington also incorporates electronic elements, particularly during the action sequences, adding a modern, edgy quality to the sound. The sound design is equally impressive. The monsters' roars are carefully crafted to convey their size and power. George's roar, for example, is a composite of gorilla, bear, and lion sounds, layered with low-frequency rumbles that simulate his mass. Lizzie's hiss combines crocodilian bellows with the grinding of metal, emphasizing her reptilian nature and her role as a relentless predator. The audio team also paid attention to environmental sounds. The destruction of buildings is accompanied by a cacophony of breaking glass, twisting metal, and crumbling concrete. The helicopter chase scenes feature the whir of rotors and the roar of engines, immersing the audience in the action. The dialogue is clear and well-mixed, ensuring that the characters' lines are never drowned out by the chaos. Part 21. Marketing campaign and merchandise. Warner Brothers invested heavily in marketing Rampage, recognizing Dwayne Johnson's global appeal. The trailers were shown before major releases, and television spots aired during high-profile events like the Super Bowl and the Oscars. Johnson himself was a key part of the campaign, appearing on talk shows, social media, and press events. He shared behind-the-scenes content, including videos of his training, motion capture sessions, and interactions with the cast. The film also had a strong digital presence. The official website featured games, character profiles, and interactive content. Social media channels shared memes, fan art, and promotional contests. The hashtag Rampage movie trended on multiple platforms, generating buzz and engagement. Merchandise included action figures, t-shirts, posters, and video games. The arcade and VR tie-ins were particularly popular, offering fans a chance to experience the destruction firsthand. The collaboration with Dave and Buster's brought the game to a wide audience, and the positive reception suggested a market for future interactive experiences. Part 22. Critical analysis of the plot structure. The plot of Rampage follows a classic three-act structure. Act I establishes the characters, the setting, and the inciting incident, the pathogen exposure. Act 2 introduces the conflict, as the heroes race to stop the monsters and the villains scheme to cover up their crimes. Act 3 is the climax, featuring the battle in Chicago and the resolution of the characters' arcs. Within this structure, the film is efficient and well-paced. There are no significant subplots or diversions. Every scene advances the main story. The dialogue is functional, delivering exposition without feeling clunky. The action sequences are spaced out, preventing viewer fatigue. The film's 107-minute runtime is appropriate for its story, neither too long nor too short. However, the plot is also predictable. The villain's motivations are clear from the start, and the hero's success is never in doubt. The film relies on familiar tropes: the misunderstood monster, the corporate conspiracy, the unlikely allies. While these tropes are executed competently, they do not offer any surprises. For viewers seeking depth or originality, Rampage may feel like a retread of familiar territory. Part 23. The film's treatment of animals and conservation. One of the film's more commendable aspects is its treatment of animals. George is portrayed as a sentient, emotional being with a personality and agency. He is not a mindless beast, but a victim of human cruelty. Davis's anti-poaching work underscores the real-world threats to gorillas and other wildlife. The film implicitly condemns the exploitation of animals for profit, whether through poaching or genetic experimentation. The film also critiques the concept of playing God with genetics. Energyne's pathogen is a warning about the dangers of unchecked scientific ambition. Kate's backstory, her brother's death due to corporate negligence, adds an emotional dimension to this critique. The film suggests that science should be used for healing, not harm, and that ethical oversight is essential. However, the film's pro-animal message is somewhat undercut by its extensive destruction. The monsters cause immense collateral damage, including the deaths of countless civilians. While the film tries to humanize these losses, it also revels in the spectacle of destruction. This tension between sympathy and spectacle is a common feature of monster movies, and Rampage does not fully resolve it. Part 24. The performance of Dwayne Johnson. Dwayne Johnson is the film's biggest asset. His charisma, physicality, and emotional range carry the movie through its weaker moments. Johnson is adept at playing the everyman hero, combining strength with vulnerability. His Davis Okoye is likable and relatable, even when he is doing something fantastical. Johnson's chemistry with the motion capture George is particularly noteworthy. Despite George being a digital creation, Johnson treats him as a real presence. His interactions with George feel genuine, thanks to Johnson's careful attention to the motion capture markers and his willingness to engage with the character's emotional beats. Johnson also handles the film's humor well. His comedic timing is sharp, and he delivers his lines with a dry wit that complements the film's tone. He is not afraid to make fun of himself, as when George signs a joke about Davis's love life. This self-deprecation makes him even more endearing. Part 25. The supporting cast and their contributions. Naomi Harris brings intelligence and warmth to Kate Caldwell. She grounds the film's more outlandish moments with her calm, rational presence. Harris and Johnson share a believable chemistry, and their characters' relationship develops naturally over the course of the film. Jeffrey Dean Morgan steals scenes as Harvey Russell. His weary, sardonic delivery provides much of the film's humor, and his gradual shift from antagonist to ally is one of the film's more satisfying arcs. Morgan's experience in both drama and action shines through, making Harvey a memorable character. Malin Akerman and Jake Lacy are effective as the villains, although their characters are one-dimensional. Akerman's cold, calculating Claire is a good foil for Johnson's warmth, and Lacy's bumbling Brett provides comic relief. The supporting cast, including Joe Manganiello, P.J. Byrne, and Marley Shelton, fill out the world with competent performances. Part 26. The film's visual effects and artistry. The visual effects in Rampage are a technical achievement. Weta Digital's work on George sets a new standard for digital apes, with realistic fur, muscle movement, and facial expressions. The destruction sequences are meticulously crafted, with every building collapse and debris cloud rendered in fine detail. The artists paid particular attention to the monster's interactions with the environment. When George stomps on a car, the car crushes realistically. When Lizzie swims through a canal, the water churns and splashes with physical accuracy. These details make the fantasy feel grounded and immersive. The lighting and color grading also enhance the effects. The monsters are integrated seamlessly into the live-action footage, with consistent shadows and highlights. The nighttime scenes are particularly impressive, with the monster's glowing eyes and the city's neon lights creating a visually striking contrast. Part 27. The film's release strategy and competition. Warner Brothers chose an April release date to avoid the crowded summer blockbuster season. This strategy allowed Rampage to open without major competition, giving it a chance to build word of mouth. The film's performance was strong, but it was inevitably overshadowed by Avengers. Infinity War 2 weeks later. The film faced competition from other genre releases, including A Quiet Place and Pacific Rim Uprising. However, Rampage distinguished itself with its star power and its appeal to families. Dwayne Johnson's presence drew audiences of all ages, and the film's PG-13 rating made it accessible to younger viewers. Internationally, the film performed exceptionally well, particularly in China, where Johnson is a major box office draw. The Chinese market accounted for a significant portion of the film's gross, reflecting the global appeal of the monster movie genre. Part 28. The film's legacy and influence. Rampage is one of the more successful video game adaptations in recent years, joining the ranks of Detective Pikachu and Sonic the Hedgehog. Its success demonstrated that video game movies could be commercially viable, even without a massive built-in fan base. It also reinforced the idea that star power and spectacle could overcome weak reviews. The film's influence can be seen in subsequent monster movies, which have increasingly embraced the giant creature formula. Films like Godzilla vs. Kong and the Mega followed in Rampage's footsteps, combining large-scale destruction with charismatic leads. Rampage also contributed to the ongoing trend of nostalgia-driven reboots. By tapping into the 1980s arcade aesthetic, the film appealed to older audiences who remember the game while also attracting younger viewers with its modern effects. This dual appeal is a hallmark of successful retro adaptations.